The alarm screamed through the medical wing at 0300 hours, and Kira's four-fingered hands moved on instinct. She'd worked trauma on 17 worlds, but nothing prepared her for the sight waiting in isolation room 7. The human on the table shouldn't have been alive. Burns covered 40% of his body, radiation poisoning saturated his cells, and something else, something her scanner couldn't identify, pulsed through his bloodstream like liquid starlight. 2 human guards stood outside, weapons drawn, faces carved from stone. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. This wasn't a normal patient. This was a secret. Kira checked the monitor. Cardiac rhythm erratic. Neural activity spiking in patterns she'd never seen. The human's chest rose and fell in shallow gasps, each breath a small war against death. His face was obscured by trauma gel and bandages, but she could see the scars underneath. Old ones, layered like geological strata. This man had been hurt before, many times. She reached for the regeneration field controls, but a hand caught her wrist. One of the guards. Human strength always surprised her. They were deceptively powerful for such a fragile species. "Wait for authorization," the guard said. "He's dying. Wait." Kira's skin flickered blue with frustration, the Valorian equivalent of a growl. She'd taken an oath that transcended politics and species, but she also understood that sometimes survival required patience. She stepped back, monitoring vitals while her mind raced through possibilities. Who was this man? Why the security? And why had they called her, specifically, when human doctors surely knew their own biology better? The door hissed open. Kira turned, expecting a military commander or perhaps a medical director. Instead, Queen Elena herself stepped through, flanked by no one. The guards immediately straightened, but the Queen waved them away with a gesture that brooked no argument. "Leave us," Elena said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of authority that had united Earth's fractured nations under a single banner. "Your Majesty Protocol." I said leave. They left. The doors sealed behind them with a finality that made Kira's secondary heart skip. She was alone with the most powerful human alive and a dying man who apparently mattered more than protocol. Elena approached the table slowly, as if walking toward an execution. She was younger than Kira expected, perhaps 40 Earth years, with dark hair streaked with premature gray and eyes that held the exhaustion of someone who'd seen too much. The Queen's hand trembled as she reached toward the patient's face, then stopped, pulling back. "Save him," Elena whispered. "Please." Kira had heard desperation in 1,000 languages. This was different. This was personal. Who is he? Someone who should have died 12 years ago. Elena's eyes never left the patient. Someone I buried with full military honors. Someone whose name I carved into the memorial wall myself. Kira's analytical mind struggled with the impossibility. A ghost. A resurrection. Or something else entirely. She activated the regeneration field, and the patient convulsed. His eyes snapped open. One brown. One a shifting crystalline blue that definitely wasn't human. His mouth opened in a silent scream, and the monitors exploded with data. Neural activity spiked into ranges that should have caused brain death. His body temperature fluctuated between hypothermia and fever in seconds. "Hold him!" Kira shouted, but Elena was already there, hands pressed against his shoulders. The Queen's face was inches from his, whispering words Kira couldn't hear. The patient's human eye focused on Elena. Recognition flickered there, followed by something that looked like horror. "No," he gasped. "Not real. Can't be real. David, it's me. You're home. You're safe. David." The name triggered something in Kira's memory. A classified file she'd glimpsed during her security clearance process. David Chen, Commander. First Deep Space Reconnaissance Initiative. Missing in action. Presumed dead. But the file had been redacted so heavily that only fragments remained. Whatever David Chen had been doing out in the void, humanity didn't want the Galactic Council knowing about it. David's crystalline eye began to glow, pulsing with the same rhythm as the foreign substance in his blood. His body went rigid, and suddenly he wasn't seeing the room anymore. He was somewhere else. "They're coming," he said, voice distant and mechanical. Coordinates locked. Transmission in 7 cycles. Harvest protocols engaged. Kira's scanner shrieked a warning. The foreign substance was spreading, converting healthy cells into something else, not killing them, transforming them. "What did they do to you?" Elena's voice cracked. David's human eye rolled toward her, lucid for a moment. "They sent me back, Elena. I'm not a survivor. I'm a message." The medical bay's lights flickered. Kira's equipment began displaying impossible readings, quantum fluctuations, gravitational distortions, energy signatures that matched nothing in known space. The substance in David's bloodstream wasn't biological. It was technological, and it was active. "We need to extract it," Kira said, already reaching for surgical tools. "No." David's hand shot out, gripping her wrist with inhuman strength. "If you remove it, the data dies. If the data dies, billions die." Elena stepped back, and Kira saw the transformation on the Queen's face. The personal grief fell away, replaced by the cold calculation of a leader facing an impossible choice. What kind of data? Invasion coordinates, fleet composition, tactical capabilities? David's voice grew weaker. "Everything humanity needs to prepare. Everything the galaxy needs to know. But it's encrypted in my cells, integrated with my neural pathways. Extraction is transmission, and transmission is death," Kira finished. She understood now. David wasn't a patient. He was a living data capsule sent back from the dark between stars, carrying information worth more than any individual life. Elena's hands clenched into fists. "There has to be another way. There isn't." David tried to sit up, failed, collapsed back. "I've had 12 years to think about it. 12 years trapped in their systems, watching what they do to civilizations they find. We're not the first, Elena. We won't be the last unless someone warns the others." Kira watched the Queen's face, saw the moment duty crushed hope. Elena reached into her jacket and pulled out a small device, a neural broadcaster, military grade, the kind used for emergency deep space communications. "How long do we have?" Elena asked. David's crystalline eye pulsed faster. "Hours. Maybe less. The nanotechnology is accelerating. Once it reaches critical mass, it'll transmit automatically, but the signal will be fragmented, useless. We need controlled extraction, which will kill you faster." Yes, Kira had seen death in all its forms, but this was different. This was sacrifice with full consciousness, full awareness. David knew exactly what he was choosing. "I can sedate him," Kira offered quietly. "Make it painless." "No," David said firmly. "I need to stay conscious. The encryption is tied to my active neural patterns. If I'm unconscious, the data corrupts." He looked at Elena, and something passed between them. A shared history Kira could only guess at. "Remember Prague? You told me some bridges can only be crossed once." Elena's composure cracked. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice remained steady. "I remember. This is my bridge, Elena. Let me cross it." The Queen nodded once, then turned to Kira. "Can you do this? Can you extract the data without losing it?" Kira looked at her instruments, at the impossible readings, at the man whose body was slowly transforming into something that would make him a beacon for horrors beyond imagination. She thought about the oath she'd taken, about healing versus harm, about the individual versus the many. "Yes," she said, "but we need to move now. The transformation is accelerating." Elena activated the broadcaster and placed it against David's temple. "The Galactic Council needs to know. All of them. Simultaneously, they'll ask questions," Kira warned. "About Earth's deep space programs, about why humans went so far beyond authorized exploration zones. Let them ask." Elena's voice hardened. "Right now we have bigger problems." David's body convulsed again, more violently this time. The crystalline contamination was spreading to his human eye now, turning brown to blue. His fingers began to elongate, joints reversing in ways that made Kira's stomach turn. "Starting extraction," Kira announced. She placed neural contacts across David's skull, connecting them to both her medical AI and Elena's broadcaster. "This will hurt. Everything hurts," David said and managed something like a smile. At least this hurt matters. Kira initiated the sequence. David's scream tore through the isolation room, raw and primal. Data flooded the medical AI, coordinates, tactical assessments, species analyses, and something else. Memories. David's memories of what he'd seen in the void. Kira saw them too, unavoidably, as the neural link crossed her own consciousness. Ships the size of moons, harvester machines that reduced entire planets to component atoms, civilizations older than recorded history, all erased, all consumed. And at the center of it all, an intelligence that saw biological life the way humans might see grass, something to be cut, processed, used. The Devourers. That's what David's fractured mind called them. They'd found him drifting in a damaged ship at the edge of known space. They'd studied him. Learned from him. Sent him back as both warning and taunt. They wanted us to know, David gasped between screams. Wanted us to fear. They feed on fear, on desperation. Then we'll disappoint them, Elena said fiercely. She held David's hand as his body transformed, as the nanites consumed him cell by cell, converting flesh to transmission medium. We'll fight, and we'll win. The data stream intensified. Kira's equipment struggled to process the sheer volume of information encoded in David's neural pathways, fleet compositions, weapons capabilities, tactical vulnerabilities. Everything humanity would need, everything the galaxy would need, purchased with one man's slow dissolution. David's human eye was fully crystalline now. His skin had taken on a metallic sheen, but somehow, impossibly, he was still conscious. Still forcing words through a throat that was no longer entirely human. Tell them, he managed. Tell the Council this isn't humanity's fault. We didn't know. We were just looking. I'll tell them, Elena promised. And tell my sister. Tell her I thought about her. Every day. Even when I wasn't me anymore. I will. The data extraction reached 80%. David's body was barely recognizable now, more machine than man, more transmission device than person. But his consciousness remained, a stubborn spark of humanity refusing to be extinguished until the task was complete. 90%. David's breathing had stopped. His heart had stopped. But the neural activity continued, driven by the foreign technology that had claimed him. Almost there, Kira whispered. Just a few more seconds. David's crystalline eyes fixed on Elena one final time. Prague was beautiful, he said, voice barely audible. I'm glad that was my last real memory. 100%. The data transmission completed. The broadcaster hummed with compressed information, ready to flood every Galactic Council channel simultaneously. And David Chen, or what remained of him, finally stopped fighting. The transformation completed in seconds. His body crystallized entirely, then shattered into fragments of light that dispersed like dying stars. Where a man had been, only empty space remained. Elena stood frozen, hand still extended where David's had been moments before. Kira powered down her equipment, feeling the weight of what they'd just done, what she'd just participated in. The Council will receive the transmission in 30 seconds, Kira said quietly. They'll trace it here. There will be questions. I know. Elena composed herself, wiping tears away with quick, efficient movements. You understand what this means? What you've just become part of? Kira looked at the empty table, at the medical data still displaying the impossible readings, at the fragments of light still fading in the air. She thought about her oath, about healing, about the difference between saving one life and saving billions. I understand that David Chen was a hero, Kira said. I understand that he gave everything to warn us, and I understand that if humanity is willing to sacrifice like that, then perhaps you're worth standing with. Elena met her eyes. The Galactic Council won't see it that way. They'll say we violated exploration protocols, that we ventured too far, risked too much. Then they're fools. Kira's skin flickered blue with determination. David didn't find the Devourers because humanity was reckless. He found them because they're out there waiting. And now we know. The broadcaster activated, sending David's final gift across the galaxy. Within minutes, every species in the Council would know what lurked in the dark, would know what was coming. And they would know that humanity had paid the price for that knowledge in blood and sacrifice. Elena picked up the broadcaster, cradling it like something precious. There will be a war, a real one, against an enemy that's never lost. Then it's good we have time to prepare, Kira said. Thanks to him. Through the isolation room's window, Kira could see the guards returning, accompanied by human military personnel and several Galactic Council observers. The questions would start soon. The accusations. The political maneuvering. But for now, in this quiet moment before the storm, Kira made a decision that would define the rest of her life. Your Majesty, she said formally, I request permission to share my medical logs with Earth's defense forces. The biological data I collected during the extraction, it could help us understand the Devourer technology, develop countermeasures. Elena looked at her, surprised. That would be treason to the Council. They'll want those logs classified, controlled. I know. Kira's skin shimmered with resolve. But David didn't die to feed Council bureaucracy. He died to give us a fighting chance. A small smile crossed Elena's face. The first since she'd entered the room. One to become very unpopular among your own people. Good thing I've always preferred human company anyway. The door opened. The observers flooded in, scanners active, voices raised with questions and demands. But Kira stood her ground beside the Queen, looking at the empty table where a hero had made his final stand. David Chen had crossed his bridge. Now it was time for others to cross theirs. The war was coming. But thanks to one man's sacrifice and one nurse's choice, the galaxy would not face it blind. In the void between stars, the Devourers continued their slow advance, confident in their superiority, certain of their inevitable victory. They would learn soon enough that humanity and those who stood with them had other plans.